Hello. Sometimes I wonder why the signs and miracles and wonders that we read about in the Bible do not happen from our pulpits today with the same intensity we see in the Bible. Is it that God changed, or it is we who changed? Now, in this episode, I share with you the video by Pastor Abel Damina, the controversial pastor of Power City International in Uyo, Nigeria. Now, let me lay it out clearly. I'm not a fan of some of the highly controversial takes of Pastor Damina on many Bible doctrines. I'm not. But the video shares a trend that is quite troubling. Very troubling. You see, I've been a Pentecostal Christian for 36 years, and I have seen and heard firsthand some of the things that Damina talks about in this video. I want you to listen to him.
I told you I've been in ministry now for over 30 years, close to 40 years. I have even hosted some of them in this church. I've hosted some of them. I remember one of them, in fact, till today in my mind, I see him as a thief. Even till today, with my understanding of the Christ gospel, I still see him as a thief. Because when we invited him to come to this church, he sent me a mail that he will not come until we pay so amount of money, thousands of dollars. And because I really wanted him to come, because then I didn't understand much, I wanted him to come to this church. So we sent part of the money. He said he will not leave America till we pay the entire money. So I paid the entire money before he left America. Then he made us buy him first class ticket on British Airways, very expensive, and he made us buy 2 extra tickets for his PA and his keyboardist, that everywhere he goes with keyboardists, as if we don't have. Some pastors will even come with 18 intercessors. They are coming to preach for you. They will come with 18 intercessors. You have to house them, you have to clothe them, you have to feed them. Don't we know how to pray? As if the church don't know how to pray. It's his intercessors that will come and pray. All these are abuses of ministerial privileges. So after we paid all the monies, this guy now calls me and says he's leaving America tomorrow, and he'll be in Uyo next tomorrow, because you leave America, you arrive the next day. So we bought him local tickets for him and his PAs and his keyboardists. He calls me in the night. He says right now he is in London, and something has just happened back home in America, crisis in his ministry. He doesn't know if he can still come, but he's trying to see how he can quell down the trouble at home and then see what to do. So at that time, I called the person who connected me with him, and I said, what is all this rubbish? This guy is talking, our conference is on, he's telling me he's in London, and I didn't plan for anybody to preach in his place. And we've paid him all the money. We've bought tickets. So he said, okay, don't worry, let me call him quickly. And after a while, he called me, he said, I don't think that guy has left America. He's lying to you. From the way I spoke with him, I still feel he's still in his house. He didn't leave America. I said, wallahi talahi, if he doesn't come for this conference, he will pay to the last kobo. To the last kobo, he will pay. You're laughing. That time when I know how to pray dangerous prayers, he will pay to the last. He go wound though. He go wound. But you know that kind of wound when they heal. He go wound. He never came. He never came, and he has not paid that money till today. He has not. I decided to go after him using all my connections in America. When they descended on him, and now he knew that this thing is going to go out of hand. I was preaching for one of his friends in Nigeria. He told his friend to beg me. Anything I want, he will do. Even if I want him to come, he will come and pay for that visit and all that. When I went to his friend's church to preach, and the friend met me in the hotel and begged me, I looked at his friend and said, if that guy is your friend, even you, I'm afraid of you. I told him. He said, please. He said, if you want, we can refund the money. I said, I don't need the money. How much can he pay for all the damages he caused? I just told the friend, no worries. But that's how you hinder the gospel. That's how people hinder the gospel. Some of them have come to this church, they charge money, we pay them. I have all the emails. All the emails are there. This week I went through my old files. I saw many of their emails. They contract. They will send you contract like business. You will sign, they will sign. Then you will pay. Men of God. Men of God. When you hear me attack prosperity, I saw shege in prosperity, miss. No character, no integrity. It's all about greed and money. Some of you who have never done ministry, even in the village, you just be talking, how can Dr. Damina be attacking people? Something I have done for close to 40 years. If I speak, everybody should stand still and listen. If I was in the army, I'd be a general right now. Don't try this thing. Am I communicating? And some of them have PAs who do these dirty jobs for them. Some of them have agencies. Say, speak to my agent. They have agencies. Deposit $50,000 and you will balance once the event is over. The Akwa Ibom state governor one time had a relationship with me. I was in America preaching. He called me from America and said, Damina, can you get this preacher for me? And that day I was preaching for that preacher in America. I said, oh, you called at the right time. I'm preaching for him today. He said, we need him to come to Akwa Ibom and preach for the government. So I say, Your Excellency, can the state government send me a letter quickly so that I can back it up sharply? They emailed me a letter from government house. I sat with this man of God and I made him realize the importance of his coming to Akwa Ibom state and what a blessing it will be for the state. And I made him realize the thousands of people that have the opportunity to hear the gospel. Then he said, okay, let me quickly check with my secretary. He checked with his secretary and called me back and in the office, and he said to me, Dr. Damina, my date is free. I will come for that event for your state. He said, but they have to pay me $250,000. What? So I said to him, for what? For what? He said, I have to fuel my aircraft both to and fro. And when I live like that, when I live even for one day, it costs me a lot of money. $250,000? I didn't call the governor back. The next day the governor called me, Dr. Damina, how is it going? I said, Your Excellency, I didn't call you because I don't know how this is going to sound. Me, I don't operate like this. This guy is saying you should pay $250,000 for that, and it was going to be a 25-minute preaching. So the governor said, what is he coming to say like that? I said, Your Excellency, I truly don't know what the man will say that we have not said. He said, tell him to forget it. Tell him to forget it. Tell him. How can a preacher ask you to pay money into his account before he comes? Is he a contractor? Is he a contractor? I know of another preacher who came to Nigeria here, and the reason why I share these stories is not to make them look bad. It's to make you not behave like that tomorrow. That's all. Bible says we learn from those who have gone before us. We learn from those who through faith and patience obtain the promise. And we also learn from those who behave like that, how not to behave. Am I teaching here? Didn't we read about the spies, both the 2 that came with good report and the 10 that came with bad report? We learn from both examples. Much more when it happened in my very eyes. He came to Nigeria to do a ministers conference in Lagos. This guy is wealthy already in America. He came to Lagos. Over 10,000 pastors travel all over Nigeria to Lagos for the conference. And then at the end of the conference, he now asked every pastor to write the prayer request of his ministry and sow a dangerous seed, that they will take the prayer requests back with them to America and raise an altar for the Nigerian pastors. Pastors who couldn't even afford transport were closing down their accounts and adding money because they are going to raise an altar of prayer for their ministries. Pastors gave and gave. The money was too much. How did I know that? One of his main staff, his direct assistant, is my friend who resigned from his ministry after that conference. So I asked my friend, why did you resign from this global ministry? He said to me, Dr. Damina, I couldn't stomach the evil that happened. How can we come to a place like Nigeria? Before we came, we raised money all over America. We went to churches. We are going to Africa for outreach, support. Churches raise money in hundreds of thousands of dollars and give to us. So we didn't have any need for money. We had more than enough. We've been overpaid by American churches. Then we now came and these pastors traveled. Some of them you see their shoes. Some of them you see their suit. You want to cry. And this man stood before them with deceptive tears in his eyes. He was crying that the Lord told him if they would just give sacrificially, and attach it to their prayer request, God God is going to move in their ministries like they've never seen before. And he just massage and deceive them. And pastors started closing their accounts and brought monies. He said money, 10,000 pastors. He said what broke his heart was that night when they got to the hotel, they removed all the prayer requests, burnt it with fire, carried the money, put in their plane and flew. He said he told him in the aircraft, you are more wicked than Satan. I will no more work with your ministry. If I had my way, I would drop off this jet and look for a plane to go back home. That was the end of. He said, looked at him and he said, leave me and Jesus to deal with that. When money enters your heart, when the love of money enters a man's heart, the way he does ministry, even Jesus is surprised. The truth of the matter is, once you make a charge, it takes away the ministry from what it is.
Now, why would a guest minister send an invoice to a host minister for coming to minister in his church? Isn't it unfortunate? Now look, I wholeheartedly detest the idea. Doesn't the Bible say, freely ye received, therefore freely give? Doesn't the Bible say that? Thanks to Pastor Abel Damina for laying these things out so clearly and openly. Now, he mentions no names in the things he says, but I want to appeal to those ministers who are guilty of what Abel Damina talks about to stop it. Simply stop it, because it hinders the release of God's power from his pulpits. And God's children, his adherents, in the end are the losers. Years ago, a Nigerian pastor who frequently preached in the United States had this to say, that the reason he wears agbadas in his foreign missions is because the agbada contains wide and deep pockets to contain his dollar returns. Can you imagine that? Now listen, there is absolutely nothing wrong in a congregation appreciating a visiting minister. Nothing wrong. But to earnestly seek to gratify oneself is wrong. Very wrong. You see, motive is a powerful denominator for our so-called good deeds. Some ministers make it a duty to take a cut from the offerings they raise for their host ministers. No wonder many sow-a-seed preachers abound in Pentecostalism today. Sad. Now, let me say this. The one scripture in which Jesus got really angry, in fact, got violent, was when he took a whip, whipped and chased out those clown Christians who had commercialized the house of God. You know what? Jesus called them robbers. These errant ministers justified their actions by teaching that Jesus wasn't poor. Well, Jesus wasn't poor, but he didn't have unlimited earthly mansions either. Jesus didn't monetize his ministry. Rather, Jesus cared for the poor. And I am glad to note today that there are still ministers who do what Jesus did. And I doff my hat to this man of God. These errant ministers claim that the Bible promises blessings for those who preach the gospel. Promises blessings to those who cling to the teachings of Jesus Christ. But we must draw a proper line between extortion and the blessings of God. We must keep a keen eye out for these well-dressed wolves in sheep clothing about whom the Bible warns us. These biblical Acans whose activities shut out miracles and signs and wonders from God's pulpits. We must watch out for them. True Christians must look out for them and their carefully crafted antics. Their antics must stop and the glory of God return to the house of God. I'm troubled. See you soon.